Let's bring in criminal defense attorney John Day now for some reaction. John, it feels very unsatisfying for those victims' families. We've heard the Gonsalveses especially speaking out. I saw an excellent interview last night on our friend Ashley Banfield's show where she had Steve Gonsalves on, and he said, we wanted Brian Kohberger to go on trial. We wanted to end him. They wanted the death penalty. They felt like the most satisfying way to get justice would be to see him tried in a public court. And now we've gotten something short of that. Is it justice, John?
Julie, thanks for having me. Unsatisfying is the word. So is it justice? You know, if there had been a trial, we wouldn't necessarily have any more information about a motive, because Kohberger certainly would not have testified. But at the end of the day, what we see in the final analysis is, I think, some very unusual maneuvering by the prosecutor, getting one family so unhappy. I mean, you're a former prosecutor, I'm a former prosecutor. One of the things we did as prosecutors was spend lots of time with victims' families. They may not have agreed with our decisions as prosecutors, but at least we gave them information. We let them know what our thought process was. We let them know why we were doing what we were doing and the decisions we made. And ultimately, you've got at least one family that is so outraged at the decision by this local prosecutor that I think it reflects probably the feelings of a lot of people who have followed this. Is it justice? I mean, the families that agreed to this, they have their own reasons, and you certainly have to respect that. You also have to respect the fact that there's one family that is not going to get the closure, not going to get the satisfaction that they were looking for.
John, so well said, so well said. And I think an important point to underscore here, dovetailing off of the great points you just made, victims have rights. We know that. For anybody wondering, victims have a right to be consulted in the process, to be heard throughout the process. But the ultimate decision is up to the state or the government. And John, you know this, you know that can be tough sometimes when you break the news to the family and it's not the direction they hoped you would go in, but you've heard them, you've notified them by law that that's all you really can do. And I was telling some of my colleagues, I remember some of those days very vividly where I would have everybody mad at me. You know, maybe it was the victim's family and the police and the defendant, you know, maybe the judge. You know, sometimes nobody is happy with a resolution. And so I think we can all appreciate that these families are disgusted, understandably so, and they're not wrong for feeling the way they feel. John Day, I'm so glad we have you on the show today. Stand by kindly for more cues, please. We're going to hit a break, and when we come back, it's time to go to Connecticut. It's time for the all-important closing arguments in the case against this defendant, this young man, 20 years old. His freedom is on the line. He says he engaged in the stabbing in self-defense at that Preppy Party. What will the jury find? We'll be right back. And the jury is going to be brought in. So let's talk about what each side needs to do in their closing arguments. I want to welcome back in criminal defense attorney and former prosecutor John Day. John, now let's start with the prosecution, and then we'll go to what the defense needs to do. In the final arguments, prosecution's best bet at convincing the jury of their position is what? Tell us, please.
Well, you know, as trial lawyers, we always think that our closing arguments are the thing that seals the deal. But the reality, in my experience, is that it just reinforces in the minds of jurors who are leaning one way or the other that they're making the right decision. The prosecution in this case has to rebut and knock down any idea that Valle acted in a way that was justifiably self-defense. And they have to anticipate that the defense is going to be, look, he had no choice. He felt threatened. He felt like his life was in danger. He had to lash out with this knife in his hand. And it was unfortunate that all these other people got in the way. The prosecution has to anticipate that and reinforce in the minds of the jurors who think that this is simply a homicide with the intent to commit a homicide, that all the actions of the defendant, none of those equated with self-defense.
Appreciate it, John. How about with the defense team and then weaving in Mr. Valle's statements that he gave on direct, on cross, on the stand, the emotion? How do you think they best convey their position?
The defense lawyers are hoping that the jurors went into the mind of Valle and said, look, This was a scared kid who was in a fight. He may have made some poor choices, but his intent was not to go and stab or harm anybody in that party. The defense is hoping the jurors can empathize with a scared young man who felt like his life was threatened. I mean, it's a tough sell for the defense, obviously. It's a very tough sell, but they're hoping that at least one of those jurors, if not more, can empathize. And if they don't come back with a self-defense verdict, at least that they will agree that it's a step down to a manslaughter, something like that.
Sure. John Day, thank you so much for that insight. We're getting ready for the closings to begin any minute now. I want to show you a live look at the courtroom as we head to break. There is defendant Raul Valley on his feet as the jury is being brought in. We'll be right back to watch the closings together live.